The Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee is with us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, thank you so much and welcome back to Bloomberg TV and radio. I'm sure you're pleased with the results of this vote in the Senate today. Have you had discussions with your colleagues in the House about what its future may be in the other chamber?
Yes, indeed. I have had those discussions. We have bipartisan leaders in the House and broad bipartisan support. You have Congresswoman Castor, Congressman Bilirakis, and they're the leads in the House. And there is broad bipartisan support across the body of the House for pushing this forward. I think that you will see House leadership move it to the floor for a vote, and we will get this to the president's desk. The reason for that is there has been an unbelievable coalition of parents and school principals and educators and pediatricians and kids that have said there need to be protections in the virtual space so that we are not subjected to some of these algorithmic rabbit trails that kids end up on when they are in the virtual space. And you know, it's so interesting. Parents and kids alike have realized when you're online, you are the product. And the longer they keep you online, the more scrolling you do, the richer that data is, the more money they make. And that is why these social media companies, even though they've known what they were doing was addictive and was causing harm, they've continued to do it. They have put profits before our children.
Algorithmic rabbit trails. I like that, Senator. I remember distinctly on the 31st of January, and I know you do too, a remarkable moment in which Mark Zuckerberg was invited to, and he did stand up in a Judiciary Committee hearing, turn around and apologize to some of the folks who were there. Quote, "It's terrible," he said. "No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered," as Josh Hawley pressed him about whether he would apologize directly to parents.
Right.
How does this legislation prevent other parents from ending up in that world?
Yes, what the legislation does is safety by design. This is a product design piece of legislation. Just as we have consumer protections in many products, this is putting those protections in place in the virtual space. It requires a duty of care. There's a toolbox for kids and parents. It opens the algorithmic black boxes. It has a portal to report bad actors in the virtual space. And then the social media platforms have to block or remove those bad actors. As we know, pedophiles, drug dealers, human traffickers, sex traffickers, cyber bullies are all utilizing this space to harm children. And in the physical world, you can't sell tobacco and alcohol or pornography to a child. You can't take them into a strip club. And people would say, why are there not protections in the virtual space? Because our children are exposed to this 24/7, 365. And this is that first step, and we look forward to the House quickly taking action and sending it to the president for signature.
Senator, we have seen when it comes to social media companies and the moderation of content, whomever that content is targeted towards, has raised some First Amendment questions. We've seen this in legal challenges that have gone all the way to the Supreme Court in its most recent term. Do you expect there to be any First Amendment issues with this piece of legislation that the social media companies may use to fight it?
This is not a speech bill. It is not a content bill. This is a product design bill, and we feel good about the placement. We have worked for over 3 years with stakeholders. We have worked with parents. We've worked with physicians and pediatricians, and no, I feel very good about where we have this legislation.
Senator Blackburn, we saw you in Milwaukee confronting the now former director of the Secret Service. Kimberly Cheadle has resigned her post following the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I know you had some very stern words for her captured on video. Our viewers on Bloomberg TV can see you essentially chasing her down the hall with a piece of your mind. You had a chance today to talk with at least her temporary replacement, the acting Secret Service Director, Ron Rowe, who was there with the Deputy FBI Director, talking about the cleanup here, essentially. Senator, did you hear what you needed to hear to believe, to have faith that the Secret Service can correct the mistakes that led to this?
What we were today, Director Rowe described himself as a change agent. I think we will see how he is going to execute that change. I did ask him about the whistleblower email that was released and made public today, where the whistleblower says, you know, it's a CYA. That is the mission at the Secret Service. Everybody's practicing that. And Director Rowe has been a career guy. He's been there for 25 years. We will see if he is actually able to do some change and restore some trust and some faith. And I asked him if he was going to allow these whistleblowers who are complaining about the culture that has developed there at the Secret Service to come forward and tell their story and to work with us as we try to make certain the Secret Service is able to do their job. They obviously did not do their job in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then also concerns with the FBI. And Deputy Director Abate was with us. I questioned him on the social media accounts. There had been some confusion around that, a little bit of contradiction coming from the FBI. There's an account when Crooks was younger. And then there is the Gab account that takes us up closer to the time that he carried out the assassination attempt. But how in the world they expect people to have trust in the FBI when former President Trump was allowed by the Secret Service to take the stage at 6 o'clock, when at 5:51 they knew they had a potential threat within range of him in that outer perimeter? It is just unbelievable. And how could they leave a water tower unattended? And the Secret Service has 31 individuals, former presidents, current president, vice president, families, and some others that have received death threats, a total of 31 people. These individuals need to know that the Secret Service is there to protect their lives and that they're going to be well tended. And as you saw in the hearing, there is much agreement on a bipartisan basis about how the Secret Service has moved forward in recent months.
Well, certainly, Senator, between that hearing and the votes today, it's been a busy day in your chamber, and your work is not yet done for the week. We understand on Thursday, you'll have a chance to vote for a tax deal that passed the House with a massive bipartisan majority, in part tax breaks for businesses with an extension of the child tax credit. Considering you were just talking to us about protecting children in the online space, will you pass up the opportunity to potentially protect some of them from poverty?
And what we want to do is make certain that we get this bill right. This bill has some serious flaws, and I think what you will do is see, I don't think they'll get 60 votes to move forward with this. There are issues with this bill, and let's get it right. Let's make those tax cuts permanent with that R&D tax credit. And then, of course, we've got opportunity zones, new market credits, work opportunity credits. We are far from ready to move forward with that bill.
Senator, we've only got about a minute left here. I don't want to set you up to cut you off, but I have to ask you about Israel's response to Hezbollah. You said last weekend, quote, "We must stand with Israel following the attack that claimed the lives of 12 young people." We now have seen at least the initial response with the rocket attack against an area in the suburbs of Beirut. Is that appropriate from your view?
You know, I want to make certain that Israel has what they need to protect themselves, and we also know that Iran is the main sponsor of terrorism globally. We know what they have done to fund, to equip, to train Hamas. Hezbollah, the Houthis, ISIS in Iraq. And I think it would be appropriate for President Biden to step forward and put those sanctions President Trump had on Iran, put the sanctions back on so they are not able to sell their oil on the global stage.
Are you concerned that this is a proportionate attack, though, or response, I should say, Senator? Do you think Israel should do more to make a point to stop Hezbollah?
I want to make certain that Israel can defend itself. As you mentioned earlier, we've had a busy day. I have not looked at any of the detail around the attack. I learned about that from you all.
Understood. Well, it's kind of you to spend some time with us. As always, Senator Marsha Blackburn, the Republican from Tennessee, with a big vote today, a remarkable vote, as a matter of fact, Kaylee. It's not often we see numbers like this these days on Capitol Hill. We'll see what happens in the House.